Welcome back to the Vow Factor. Another Monday in the books.
Bringing you your wedding day content that you didn't know you needed.
Yeah, we're here to bring it to you.
I love it.
All right, so today's episode, can you make wedding day content creation a full-time job?
We have to get into this.
We do, because we get asked all the time,
If this is our full-time job.
if this is our full-time job, how we're doing it, what it takes, how can you make it work, what our personal stories are of how we did it.
I think the true answer is, if you want it, it can happen.
Mm-hmm. If you have the idea in your head,
And the drive.
it's meant for you.
Yeah. Like, that's really all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
But we can get into more specifics.
More specifics. Here we go.
So, I have a very, non-conventional career path and, switching careers. So I feel like whenever I talk to a couple and they ask me my experience and how I got here, I'm always like, got a drink, let's sit back. It's a story. So if someone were to ask me if you can make wedding content creation a full-time job, I would say yes.
Both of us, wholeheartedly. Yes.
It is our full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I currently also do have a part-time job, but I, without fail, put more hours into wedding content than anything I've ever done before. Even other full-time jobs, I put way more into that.
It's the biggest leap of faith that I've ever taken.
It is the scariest thing to do.
It's the scariest. Any business outside of being a wedding content creator, just owning your own business in general and putting in the time, effort, money, resources, blood, sweat, and tears, because trust me, there's a lot of tears that go into this.
There's a lot of tears, and I think today, if you are looking to be in more of a creative field and a more creative career path, this is the episode for you to listen to, because we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about in the most realistic way we could ever think of. Mm-hmm. Emily and I have had very different paths to get here, and I think both are really realistic for a lot of people. Mm-hmm.
And both of us arrived.
Yeah.
We took different paths, different roads.
But we're both sitting here.
And we're telling you that it's possible, because it is. And I think we should get into how we got in these seats right here.
So I've always had a very creative spirit. I took art classes when I was little. I did photography. I danced my entire life. I did competitive dancing, and then into college I worked. I was really big into Dance Marathon. If you know me, you know that. And
I almost met her at Dance Marathon.
Almost met me at Dance Marathon.
I went to one when I was at the University of Alabama, sophomore year.
I was there.
And you were there.
And that was my first year doing it, and I was on the blue team. And we had, I did dance. When I was doing Dance Marathon, I was on the morale committee, which was, we planned the entire event, and we got to think of really creative games. And I always had a lot of creativity in me, and I always used it. When I graduated high school, I went to the University of Alabama. I was a communicative disorders major, and so I graduated and then went to grad school in New York for speech pathology, and I graduated during the pandemic with my graduate degree, and I immediately started working as a speech therapist.
Is there any creativity involved in that job?
There is, at some point. So, in some capacity, there is. So, I chose to work in schools. The hospital is not for me. I am very scared of hospitals. So the medical side was not very interesting to me, but the school side was. I love working with kids, and every kid is so different. And especially with the little ones, I was able to come up with games and different things for them to do. And I was definitely able to use some creativity. And in my very first job, I loved the job. I love the kids. To this day, it is still one of my favorite experiences I've ever had. And the thing with speech at the time was that I was barely making enough to live in New York City. And at that point, I was really thinking how, maybe I can do something else on the side. And then I had gotten this opportunity to switch jobs. And I did. And I switched jobs in February of 2023. It was right before I got engaged. And at this job, which I thought was going to be like a long haul job, like I was going to be here for a long time, it was the worst decision. Yet, in disguise, I would not be here without it. I left that job that I loved, and I went to a job that I was making a lot more money at, because if we're being real, you got to make money.
You got to, especially in New York City.
Especially in New York City, like it was really hard,
Yeah.
With a stable job with a graduate degree, you would think that, any of those jobs would, you'd be able to live really comfortably, and that just wasn't the case. And so I took this other job, and I, from the second I stepped in on my first day, knew it was a mistake. And I even like really contemplated just like leaving. And then a month and a half later, I got engaged. And I think I had been at the job that I really enjoyed being at, I would have never had the idea to really go forward with a business. And so
it's funny how everything you really are put in these specific places and circumstances. And, when you finally arrive to where you want to be, you can look back and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And, when I was in grad school, you have to do like externships where you have a supervisor that watches all your sessions and everything like that. And I had a lot of creative freedom in that job. And so I actually really enjoyed that. And then when I started working on my own, I realized that there was a little bit more of I had less freedom to do that. In the schools that I was at, some are very strict in some ways, and some kids aren't really interested in that, and I was working in charter schools. They're very academic based, and so it wasn't as creative as I was really wanting to be, and I found myself in a very dark place mentally. And it was at that second job, and that is when I met Emily, and how I'm like, I have no idea what stars aligned for all of this to happen, but I basically was like, I wanted to just work with her. I was like, do you need another shooter, an associate? Like, I wanted to do something. I really had no intention at that point of fully leaving speech as a career. I just wanted something that would like give me a little bit of life and happiness. And like the thought of going to weddings and shooting weddings was like the happiest thing in the world to me. And so I was like, okay, can I do this? And she was like, yeah, no, like come, like we'll do. And, I learned pretty much everything I know from her. And it was really funny because there came a time about a month and a half later where she calls me up and she's like, hey, so I don't think you should work for me. I think you need to do this on your own. And I was like, are you crazy? And I was like, I have no business experience. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've like barely been to a wedding. Like, I don't know what's going on. And she was like, nope, you do.
You do.
You do.
I'll help you and hold your hand.
And it was so funny. Like my very first couple, shout out Lulu and Mike. I
just love her name.
I know. And they're having a baby.
Yes.
They're having a baby. I'm so excited.
All of them like in that friend group are like having babies.
I'm like,
Tatum, so who
she is?
They just had a baby girl, and
Wait,
she's
I didn't
so
know that.
cute.
Okay,
yeah.
So like the quick story,
Quick little story. Side note: with
there's
us, you're gonna have a lot of side notes.
You're gonna have a lot of side notes, but we have so many interconnecting stories. Emily and I were working this event together, and Emily had gone. She had to leave the event on one of the days to go and shoot a wedding, and she came back, and I was covering for the day that she wasn't there because she was at the wedding. Mm-hmm. And a couple of days after that wedding, she got an email from a couple that was at that wedding, and was like, "Hey, we love what you did. We're getting married in 2.5 weeks. Do you have availability?" And she was like, "I don't, but I do know someone who does." And
I was like, "Jesse."
And I got on the call with them.
Start your business.
I got on the call with them, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I was like, we had done, a wedding or two together, and I was like, okay, I guess. But like, I had no involvement in the process of it. I just showed up, and I got on the phone with them, and they were so sweet, and I had no idea what to charge. I had no idea anything to do. And looking back, I'm just like, this is so funny. But that was my very first wedding on September 16th, 2023. I will never forget the date. And that was kind of how, I kind of got into that, and going from, so I guess a little bit of a rewind, I had quit that job, that speech job that I hated.
Yeah.
I actually quit in June at the end of the school year.
Couldn't stand it anymore.
I could not stand it. Like, I literally was telling my then fiance, I was like, I don't even know what I would rather do, but like nothing is worth staying at this job. Like, I would rather go to the bookstore down the street that needs like a help sign and like work there and make minimum wage. And like, I was already struggling financially at that first job, and I was just like beating myself up so bad for leaving it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that, kind of would never have been here if not for that. So I kind of grateful for it in the end. But at the time I was like, literally nothing is worth this. Like, I would rather work at any minimum wage job. And he was like, then quit. Like, there's literally no reason for it. And I said, okay. I looked at my savings and I looked at everything and I said, okay, I'm giving myself 6 months. I have 6 months from June to the end of the year to figure it out, or I'm going back. And I did not work at speech for 6 months. I can't tell you how many people thought this was the stupidest thing I could ever do. I was throwing everything away. I wasted all this money on degrees. How could you ever make something, with content or photography? I didn't even know what I wanted to do when I quit. I had literally just texted Emily. I hadn't even spoken to her, like, in person.
We hadn't sat down in person.
No, the summer of 2023, I probably tried 20 different jobs, like 20 different career paths. I was like, photography. I would take my like old DSLR from high school and I would go to Central Park and I would like shoot like random like people and like try and learn how to edit. And I was like, oh, like photography is not exactly what I want. And then I started like trying to learn how to do Canva and like do like designing. And I always like found myself going back to more creative fields.
Yeah.
And then I really, I guess I just had like wedding content in the back of my mind, but I can't tell you how many people thought this was like the most idiotic thing that I could possibly be doing.
Shout out to the haters. Look where we are now.
Literally. But as far as this becoming a full-time job, I cannot say it happened easily or quickly at all. Actually, I mean, truthfully, in any creative field, you are most likely working full-time without being paid full-time. I will say you're most likely not making full-time money when you're working full-time hours at first. Time is not equal to money.
That's such a good point.
In a creative field, it's just not like, your 9 to 5, you get paid every other week. You know exactly what you're making. You know where your next paycheck's coming from. And this was something that I had such a hard time with. I thought that this was going to be like easy. I don't know why. Like, I really was like, oh, like, I barely thought of this as a job, to be quite honest. It's taken me about 1.5 years to like really come around to the fact that like this is a job. And it's not that I didn't treat it as a job, but in my head, a job was you know your hours, you go into work, you get a paycheck. Like, it was a very like old school kind of, traditional way of thinking. Yeah. And it was, just kind of what I know my whole life.
That's what they teach us in school.
That's what they teach you.
They don't teach you, hey, you can do whatever you want with your life. They're like, no we're training you right now for your 9 to 5. You're gonna, yeah. So
I mean, I know you said last time like you're an air sign. I'm a water sign, and I really just sometimes am like a people pleaser in that way, and I never really thought about it. But the more I realized how unhappy I was, the more I was like, I have to figure out how to change it. I've been in therapy for this. I started working with a coach to really like reset my mind. Like, just the way that I think about everything, the way I approach every single thing, all the road bumps, all the successes, actually accepting the successes, and actually like knowing when you did something good versus when you didn't do something good. And all of that is so much harder when you're the only person that is going to hurt or gain something from it.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that I wasn't expecting to like deal with. And I didn't even know that was a roadblock that I was dealing with until, later on when I would, be like, why am I not like booking more weddings, or why are like, people pushing back on this? And it was because I straight up didn't believe that it was possible.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't believe it at first, for sure.
You didn't believe it. Also, the comparison game is really hard. We need a full episode on that, because I feel like it doesn't matter how successful you are. You're always doing the comparison game.
100%. And
it's true.
Like, you know, I will say this. If you are finding yourself comparing yourself to one person or a couple people, just mute them on social media for a little while. That is our
biggest advice.
Mute them. It's
just
nothing against them. Even if you're friends with them.
It's not personal.
It's not personal, but consistently and honestly, your content's going to start to look like their content if you're always that and you don't want to copy someone.
Exactly. I think whatever you need to do to keep your mind at peace, to keep yourself relaxed. I always use the Michael Jordan, scenario, because he was so great because he could stay so relaxed during the craziest games,
True.
And
keeping yourself relaxed is key.
You got to be relaxed. Wolf of Wall Street, you got to be relaxed. A different way of being relaxed, but it is so true though. You got to be relaxed and you got to keep yourself in a peaceful state of mind, and literally whatever you have to do to keep that is how you build a business and how you survive in your business and how you scale your business.
You're in survival mode every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I ended up going back to a part-time speech job in January of 2024, mostly because I was getting married in July, and weddings are expensive, as we will absolutely get into in a later episode.
Yep.
And I just did not feel that I could financially be okay with the starting business salary, and my business did not take off right away, and I honestly really attribute a lot of that to how I approached it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll get into mindset and a lot of that later. But that was just not my reality. It was not like that. I know a ton of people are, and that's awesome for them. And once again, the comparison game with that is hard. It's so hard. But, my now husband was like the most supportive person. I made it a goal for myself. I said, I have to be able to pay my rent, my portion of the rent every month. And if I can do that, I am okay.
Yeah.
Because he totally picked up where I was lacking.
I couldn't have done this either without my husband. I don't know if it was just me by myself. I don't think I would have been able. Well, that's not true. I would have been able to figure it out. It just might have taken a little bit longer
and be a lot harder. Like, we're very.
It would have been a lot harder.
That way.
We're very privileged, and we. Yeah.
Honestly, if I wasn't with Egg, I probably would have moved home.
It would have been a different form of support.
Yeah.
But having
without friends and family, and I will say I lost a lot of friends during this transition. A lot of people really just did not agree with me, and it came out hard.
Yeah.
During this
past year, just even getting more into the business and scaling and growing the business, a lot of my friends,
haters,
a lot of my friends just didn't understand why I was so busy.
That too.
It was and
the weekends.
Yeah. I'm
working on the weekends too.
Yeah. And also, if I have a free weekend, doesn't mean I automatically, I want to hang out with you. I really do. But I need to take care of me.
Yeah.
That is a weekend that I haven't seen my husband maybe.
Oh, I go weeks without really seeing him.
Yeah. And no one tells you about working in the wedding industry, how you really give up your weekends and what that really truly means. So when you have a weekend available, and it's just so sacred. It's your sacred time.
It is.
And it really is.
And a lot during busy season, that weekend you're playing catch up on all your back end stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's hard.
It's really, really hard. And I think I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I currently am still working at that part-time speech job.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, Em took that leap really early. And I think you had mentioned at one point.
But I took that leap when I knew that I had bookings coming in. Right. I felt more comfortable.
And
we'll get into that.
But mine is not even to do with bookings, because I'm really grateful for all of my bookings and my couples, and just it still is crazy to me that people trust me to be on their wedding day. And
I feel that way too about myself. I'm me?
I know. I'm
oh, okay. What? All right, let's do this, girl.
But for me, taking the leap is all about financial stability. Mm-hmm. And I'll be so for real. I just had a wedding and this school year, and it mentioned that I left that first job in the middle of a school year, mm-hmm. and that I still hold so much guilt about that because most people would not know this but it's really hard to replace a speech therapist in a school, especially in New York in a charter school. I'm not working like at the exact school. Like I work privately and I'm like put into the school. It is very difficult to replace me. And then I am hurting. All these kids won't be getting services essentially. Like it is a messed up system. It's not right, but that's the reality of what would happen. And I'm like, I told myself that my busy season really kicks off at the end of April, beginning of May, and school ends in June. So I was like, I have to see this through.
Yeah.
That's more of the thing, is just like seeing it through. And honestly, it does not hurt to have other income. And I think it's like really like transparently what we live in. It's
the world that we live in. I feel like everybody has 3 jobs right now.
Yeah.
It is. Everything is so expensive.
It's so expensive, but you know, I do.
And people are losing their jobs left and right.
I'm so grateful to have the job too. And as much as it's really hard for me to balance everything and scaling a business while also working, all those hours of the week is no easy feat. It's definitely still doable and I'm really grateful for it. But I do also think that me being able to kind of like prep myself and be like, okay, June is when I'm planning on leaving and no longer pursuing that side of my career. And it gives me that like time, it gives me that preparation instead of, just doing it and figuring it out. So that works for some people. I guess I am not. So that's kind of my story. I always say this is my full-time job and speech is my part-time. But I will say that I was working this full-time hours without making full-time money for quite some time. Luckily we're a little bit past that, which is really freaking grateful for. And like, it was not overnight. So yeah,
you've worked so hard and you deserve
crazy
all of the amazing things that are coming for you this year. I'm
very
truly
looking forward. Honestly, like 2026 now, like I feel like my brain's in 2026 a lot.
Me too.
It's like crazy, all of 2026 coming in. It's really exciting. And so yeah, I definitely did not have a traditional path, and I definitely had a career change, kind of like a midlife crisis situation. It was when I was about 26-ish, is when I made that switch, and I don't regret it. And I'm still like working through all of those things. And if anyone else relates, I'm happy to go more into it and kind of like the steps I've been taking.
We're here for you
guys. In order to like, it's a mind game. It's all mindset. It's what I've been learning. I said I've been in coaching. I've been in therapy, and it's been like just a learning process.
Staying relaxed.
When you know one thing your whole life, and then you have to change it all.
You burn it to the ground, and then you rebuild.
You rebuild, but you're right. Staying calm is good. Being calm is such an asset to a wedding day. I think it's crucial, actually. You have to be calm on a wedding day.
You have to be a calm presence. There's stuff that's going on, and it can just be...
It's crazy.
Crazy.
But I know my story. You had a little bit more of a linear switch into it.
I did. I feel like it was kind of like... Everything flowed a little natural for me. Yeah.
It was more natural. It wasn't a 180.
It wasn't a 180. I wasn't in a completely different career. I've always had a creative career. Similar to you, I always grew up doing really creative things. I did musical theater, singing, dancing, acting. I went to journalism camp for fun in high school because I wanted to be on camera and be a reporter. So right now, this is my dream. And I have always given in to all of my wild creative dreams and allowed myself to explore and go there. I get a lot of creative output with content creation and TikTok and YouTube. And I really got my start when I was in 4th grade, and I ran for my elementary school's historian in SGA because 4th and 5th graders could run for SGA.
Student government.
And if I got historian, that meant that I could go to all the 5th grader events, which would make me really cool. So, and it also meant that my parents would have to get me a digital camera, which I also wanted really bad.
That's so funny.
I just, you sit down and you figure it out. And for me as a kid, I figured it out, and I got historian, and I got to go to all of the little events that my school had with my little camera and document it and give it to the PTA who put together our yearbook. And I think like from that moment on, it planted a seed subconsciously that I carried through. And the next stop on the little train is going to be when I was in 8th grade. And I really wanted my belly button pierced. I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida, and that's when everybody had started to get their belly buttons pierced. And I was like, Mom, I've got to get my belly button pierced. She was not about it. I put together PowerPoint presentations as to why I should have my belly button pierced. I went back to like ancient Egypt and how it was viewed as like a status or something. Like I went full deep on the research.
This does not surprise me at all.
I went full in on it. And my mom just looked at me one day and she goes, okay, so you can get your belly button pierced, or we're going to go to Best Buy and you can get an iMac desktop. And I was like, oh, definitely the computer. I was like, I don't care about a belly button ring anymore. That went out of my mind. And it was going to be our family computer that they put, just outside of the kitchen. And I had my digital camera from when I was in 4th grade, and I had my SD card in, and I had started recording all of these memories of me and my friends in 8th grade. And I sat down and I discovered iMovie that day. And I popped in my little SD card, and all of the memories came on screen of me and my friends and all the silly videos that we were making and all the events and the football games and the trips to the movies and all the girls hanging out in like the girls' bathroom, and, we're all just chit-chatting. And I realized that I documented half of my 8th grade year. And I thought to myself, how cool would it be to just make a documentary about my 8th grade class? I moved a lot as a kid, and so I was actually the new girl in school in this class, but you would never know. We all fit in so well together, so much so I ended up planning our high school reunion 10 years later. But I decided that I was the 8th grade historian, and for the rest of the year, I made sure to show up to all of the events, all of the parties. I ran around with my camera at lunch. I got interviews with everyone. We did this thing in science class that only the 8th graders got to do, where we built our own rockets out of like paper and I don't know what else. And we shot them into the air, but everybody got to decorate their rocket and name it something, funny or whatever. So I interviewed everybody about their rockets. Like, it's a whole extensive thing. And I put it together, and one of my longtime friends, who's still one of my longtime friends, had a movie premiere party at her house for me on the last day of 8th grade. And I premiered my 8th grade movie, and it did so well. Everybody loved it. They loved seeing everything throughout the year that literally the week later I got a call from like the cutest boy in school. And he goes, hey, Emily, so, our friend Eugene, he's moving to Miami, this summer. And, well, we want to throw him a going away party. Can you make like a film for him, like a going away film? And I was like, okay, but we were out of school. So I was like, how am I going to like interview all of my friends and like make this cool, video that has lots of emotion and all of these things? And, this girl down the street who I wasn't friends with, but I knew of, named Molly, was having her 14th birthday, and everyone from school was going to be there. So I went to her birthday party, and I got all of the interviews. I was like pulling people into her bedroom. Her mom probably thought I was crazy, like interviewing people. And I put together this video, and like in school from then on, I was known as the YouTube girl, the girl who made all of these video memories. I was in the TV program. I started the live news at my high school. Like I said earlier, I went to journalism camp for fun. And that's kind of where I really got my start in all of this. Fast forward, I'm in college, and my family was going through a little bit of a tough time, and I needed to pick up all of my bills. And at 20 years old, babysitting's just not going to cut it when you have a car and a phone and a school bill and an apartment and all of these things. And out of kind of necessity, I was like, I have a phone, I have a laptop, and I know how to use social media. And I started a digital marketing agency, and it's very early stages. And I didn't realize what I was doing then, but it was kind of the blueprint for every other business that I would start after that, including Wedding Day Content Creator. Wedding Day Content Creator was also born out of necessity to survive. And I was kind of coming out of the era of being in love with digital marketing. Going through the pandemic as someone in digital marketing burnt me out very quickly, because all of a sudden everybody went from traditional marketing to digital. Everybody was utilizing influencers. Everybody was getting onto TikTok. I mean, I was telling my clients in 2019 that they should have some sort of mascot, on TikTok, almost like I was like, oh, it'll be like a Jake from State Farm, but everybody will have their own TikTok, and your brand will become a TikTok personality. And no one believed me. They're like, we're not learning stupid dances. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. Well, we're going to move on from that. And then 2020 came, and it's like an explosion of all of this. And I was managing like 18 clients by myself at one time. I wasn't sleeping. I was shaking on the weekends, just out of anxiety. And I knew the part that I loved was the content. I was like, how do I swim through this mess that I feel like I've almost created for myself and just get back to what I love, which is the content? This is all happening during the time I'm getting married. I'm planning my own wedding. I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to make all of this happen. And the year after my wedding was kind of the year where I was like, okay, I need to reevaluate what's happening, because I don't know if I'm exactly happy in my career. And I'm not ready to admit to myself that I'm not happy, but we are going, yeah, I was like taking those hard to swallow pills, Yeah. That meme of like the hard to swallow pills. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. So I come across Sabrina Ann socials saying that she TikToked the wedding for the influencer couple, and it landed in People. I immediately was like, this is what I want to do. I called my business partner at the time, and I was like, hey, do you want to start a wedding content business with me? She's like, no, I don't have any interest of going to weddings. And also she's like, how would you do that? You have to work on the weekends, and you hate working on the weekends. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm only going to work 2 days a week. If they're the weekends, I don't care.
Joke's on you.
I'm like, I need to like tone my life down a little bit, because I feel like I had just gone from like very high energy, high stress of every aspect of my life. And going back to like something that really shaped my mindset of how to get me through, and how I feel like I've been able to, it looks like I've been able to seamlessly pivot from one thing to the next. But, side note really quick, my grandmother got me the book, The Secret, the audiobook, and the movie when I was 11 for Christmas. And I was like, is this true? Can you really, like, it's, when I was a kid, I was like, this is like creating magic in your life. But as I got older, I saw more and more people talk about how they read the book, The Secret, or they watched the movie and it changed their life. And I'm like, that's really funny, because I read that a really long time ago, and I've always wondered if it's actually true and it actually works. And it's just the power of having a positive mindset. And if you feel that something's meant for you, it is. If it feels like something's bigger out there that's waiting for you, there is something. And when I was going through the transition,
you can't feel it if it's not there.
Exactly. When I was going through the transition of, I feel like something really big is about to happen, and I don't know what it is, but I know I'm unhappy here, and I don't know how to get to the other side, I contacted 3 different psychics from TikTok. And I was like, because that was the time where it was like your card readings and blah, blah, blah. And this girl would get on my TikTok all the time on my For You page and be like, you are destined for something so big. So I called that girl up, and I was like, what is it? And I was like, because I can feel it and I don't know what it is. And it was a month before I started Wedding Day Content Creator. And I just want to say that having a positive mindset truly is everything. And even leaning into the unknown and being like, I don't know what this is, but if I can just get from point A to point B, keep going. keep going.
It is just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. It exists. And like, you know, you and I have a very similar story from when you were kind of bridging things together. I, you know, was kind of winding down on the digital marketing aspect, but I needed to make a significant amount of income. I needed something a little bit more stable. And so I took a job as a director of marketing for a tech startup in Stamford, Connecticut. So I was commuting an hour and a half on the train from New York City to Stamford, Connecticut and back. They told me it was going to be 2 to 3 days in office. It was supposed to be hybrid. That was smooth. Wait,
crisp.
Give me a cheers, baby.
That crisp DC.
Crispy DC.
I feel better.
It always hits. Mm-hmm. Okay, so our ideal sponsor would be Diet Coke. So we're going to manifest this today. All right, there you go.
Wedding days.
Wedding days are sponsored by a crispy Diet Coke. Always. Multiple of them. And I always bring extra in case the venue doesn't have any. Because I have to have it. It is an addiction at this point. So
I agree.
Anyway, so we left off on
your journey.
My commute journey back and forth from Manhattan to Stamford, 3 hours. I had to pack breakfast, lunch, dinner. I was schlepping.
Yeah.
It was a journey.
Multiple hour commute each way.
It was a multiple hour commute, but I was also allowing myself the time and space to figure out what I really wanted to do. So while I was sitting on the train for an hour and a half each way, I had a lot of time to think. And I knew that this wasn't going to be something that was forever. Everything, you know, is temporary. And I knew that this probably would be very temporary. And I was in the very baby process of starting Wedding Day Content Creator. I had my first wedding coming up on March 25th.
March 25th.
2023. And that day did come, and I remember shooting my first wedding and thinking, wow, I wish I could do this every single day. That is how much I loved it. And, you know, that week I got back on the train and I went to work, and I was actually let go the week after I shot my first wedding. And I was like, thank God. Yeah. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is about to be really scary, but it's going to be the best thing ever.
I think your first wedding is like you'll never forget it.
It was amazing. Also on the invisible string theory, it was at my favorite wedding venue that I would have dreamed to get married at. And also where Taylor Swift shot her Blank Space music video, just to like weave that in a little bit. Our love for Taylor Swift. Ohika Castle.
Ohika Castle.
Great wedding. Really set the tone for my career. I couldn't believe that I got, you know, a high-end wedding, my first ever wedding. And I'm on the phone with the bride, and the bride's like, oh, is this your first wedding? And I was like, yes, but I promise no one's ever going to know. And she was like, I believe in you, Emily. She believed in me and supported me, and still to this day checks in with me. And it's been really, really great. But I wanted to tell you guys about this journey because sometimes you need what I have heard called a bridge job. It bridges you from one part in your life to where you want to be in life. And I considered that digital marketing job. I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term great fit for me. I knew that I wasn't, you know, I was 1 foot out of the digital marketing world. But it bridged me to Wedding Day Content Creator, and it allowed me the income and the space to do it. And the second that I was let go, I immediately was like, okay, well, you know, I have to have another, you know, job. And my husband was like, listen, he's like, if I'm betting on anyone who can have their own business and, you know, really turn this company into something, because he was starting to see that people were just booking and they hadn't seen anything really at that point. You were one of them. You know, you booked me kind of sight and content unseen.
I didn't see
that makes sense. Yeah, you didn't see anything. You just were like, oh, I like you. I'm going to work with you. Mm-hmm. And having that trust and that faith from so many people was what changed my life. And encouraged, obviously my husband saw, and he's like, listen, he's like, you need to just sit down and just figure this out and put your time and energy into this. And it was so scary because I had never not had some sort of income coming in. And I had enough income coming in from this to where I could pay my rent. But I mean, there was no money for extras. I wasn't going out. It was really nice because I feel like me and some of my friends were going through a similar thing at that time because we were kind of in a recession. So a lot of people didn't have jobs or were leaving jobs because they just were so burnt out and unhappy after the pandemic that all of us were like, you know what? We can't do this anymore. And we were like broke together, and it was kind of a lot of fun. And we had a lot of dinner parties at home, that didn't take a lot of effort, that weren't very expensive. And I just felt like really supported by everyone, and all of us got through it together. And because I had so much time where I wasn't focusing on other people's businesses and what other people want from me and how I can help them, and I sat down and just put that time into myself and my own business, that was what was the most important, that excelled this quicker than anything else.
Something that you tell me all the time whenever I'm having and something that I just remember if I'm ever in a headspace of I can't do this, or nothing is happening, or everything is failing, or those very realistic feelings, you're always put your head down and you're going to be shocked what happens when you look up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. Just block out all the noise, remain calm, and just put your head down and work. And even when you don't know what to do, something that my coach tells me a lot, and something that I've been doing on a more regular basis, is she's like, whenever you say you don't know what to do next, or you don't know something, what would you do? If you knew what to do, what would you do?
Yeah.
Or if you don't know what to post, start writing down ideas. Start by writing down ideas you've already done. She goes, I guarantee you're going to start writing new ideas down. Mm-hmm. She's like, you are blocking yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all just what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's out of some...
You didn't know what you were doing.
I didn't know. Yeah. And everyone who comes to me and they're like, okay, give me the answers, because I help other content creators. I'm like, I just want to let you know, I didn't know. I really didn't know. There was no pricing transparency. There was no how to edit a video. There was no how to give a contract to a client. There was no how does a content creator shoot a wedding day. I had to show up and just figure it out. And, obviously the first wedding I shot versus the most recent wedding that I shot look totally different. But as long as you are ready to, absorb knowledge on the go like a little sponge, and you are just solely focused on what you are doing and your craft, and waking up and making sure your mind is quiet, making sure you're calm and relaxed, just put your head down and work. Because, people can maybe do something better than me. Maybe some people are more talented than me, but I will outwork them any day. So, because I can put my head down and work and get focused.
I mean, it's true. I feel like when... No, the idea just went out of my head.
That's okay. I was sip a Diet Coke. It'll come back.
I know. Well, when you were talking and I had an idea, but I was listening, and so then I forgot my idea.
That's okay. It'll come back to you, and you just tell me when it comes back.
I will let you know.
Perfect.
But that's a really important, I guess, segue into that you can make this a full-time job.
You can absolutely make this a full-time job.
With full-time income.
With the income of your dreams.
Honestly, yeah.
So I've never scaled a business to 6 figures so quickly. Now we're going on the multiple. I'm in year 2.5. That's crazy.
Yeah.
With an iPhone. My overhead costs are like nothing.
Oh, yeah. But the time that goes into it is...
Yeah.
I said before that in a creative job... time is not necessarily equal to an exact dollar sign, but your time is so valuable.
It is.
It's invaluable. It is, you can't put a, price tag on the amount of work that you're doing.
Right.
Necessarily, That's why, they're like, oh, you're only on an iPhone. I'm like, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But there's so much happening that is taking hours and hours and hours and so much time and energy and money. And
Multiple iPhones.
we have multiple iPhones.
Everyone's like, well, your cost isn't that crazy. I also am like, not really any overhead costs. But if you want to do a 12 to 15 hour wedding day, you can't have one phone. You have to invest in like 3 phones almost.
I have 3 phones. You have
Yeah.
really good chargers. I have really good lighting.
You got to pay for all the really good chargers, all the really good lighting, all the really good mics, the Bluetooth mics. You can't just get the ones on Amazon. You have to get like the really like high quality
I have the DJI ones.
DJI, Rode. Yeah.
I mean,
you can't cheap out on that stuff if you want
no,
quality.
the quality's insane.
And these are weddings. Like it has to be quality.
I think the most crazy difference in my content has been the lighting. Finding like
that good light is good.
That light is crazy.
It's amazing.
The content looks honestly like low-key professional.
Yeah.
But like vertical.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
especially the, dancing content. When you put like a bright light on that, it's
my favorite.
out of this world.
My favorite also too is when you use the light and then the bride has a sparkly dress.
I was going to say that.
And then you turn down the exposure and then it's just like
so many sparkles.
Beautiful.
Yep.
I love it. It's so good.
Yep. It's almost just like flash.
It's just excellent.
It is.
So we've gone over that wedding content creation can absolutely be a full-time and lucrative career.
We have. And it just takes the will to want it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, sacrifice.
A lot of sacrifice. You are going to sacrifice your weekends.
You're going to sacrifice.
If your friends are getting married and they don't send you the date soon enough, you might be booked.
Mm-hmm.
Bachelorette parties, baby showers, those things happen on the weekends. So you might be losing time with family, really important things. It's a lot of sacrifice. Charge accordingly.
No, but that's true.
But it's true.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
Your time
it's a sacrifice.
is so important. And when you're building a business, it's just everything.
Yep. But with the right strategy.
Strategy, your brand, your reputation, it's going to get you where you want to be.
Exactly.
It's probably not going to happen overnight.
Probably not. And that's good to know that Rome was not built in a day, and neither will your content creation business.
I think that...
But it's okay.
I actually think that, a lot of people want this like instant success,
mm-hmm.
but I actually think that by taking that out of the equation, you're allowing yourself to mess up a couple times in the beginning and not hold yourself to this like perfection status when you're first starting, because the reality is you're going to mess up.
I'm still messing up. I'm still 100%. Learning. That's a part of any business.
But imagine going in and like being super like, I mean, of course you want a lot of bookings, but that's really overwhelming too. Yeah. So if that's not what's happening to you, the other side is you do have time to take it all in and to work through it and to make those mistakes and to have time to fix it before you start getting all these bookings, and then you're kind of also playing catch up. Like, it's a toss up.
Yeah.
So I think just as like a little bit of encouragement, if you are starting any business.
That's right.
Not just wedding content, but literally any business. It might take
a little bit. Brick by brick. You'll build your empire.
Put your head down.
And sometimes people have really big empires. It takes a little while. It's okay.
Like
it's
Taylor
worth
Swift.
It. Yep. So that brings us to our next segment. All right. So if you missed it on the first one, we do this lovely segment because both of us, our goal in life, Taylor Swift and Tree Payne, if you are listening, please call us. Have your people call our people, which is just us.
We would like to / are going to. That's our manifesting.
Yes.
To shoot Taylor Swift's wedding one day.
Yes.
As of right now.
That's our personal and
Taylor
business
and Travis. If she would like that, if she would like to choose someone else,
that's fine.
Who are we to say? We just love her and support her.
We do. And I think we're the perfect content creators for her.
Literally.
We know her story so well. And so on this segment, we are choosing a song every single episode and taking that song. And we are sharing any inspiration that we might have for her wedding.
Wait, I kind of thought of maybe a song that's better than the one we already have planned.
Ooh, okay.
I think Fearless.
That's a really good one.
I know.
Okay.
Because in order to start a business you have to be fearless. Like, you have to be okay.
You do.
Being scared.
You do.
You have to do it scared.
You have to be fearless.
And Fearless is a special one for me because at that show on May 20th, when we met,
May 12th.
That's what I meant. On May 12th at the Eras Tour show, when the first day we ever spoke, the reason why I needed to go that day is because I was planning to ask my sister to be my maid of honor. And I had gotten engaged like 10 weeks before, something like that. And I still hadn't asked her. And she was like, what is going on? And I was like, no, like, I'm going to ask you. And instead of during Love Story, when they get
knelt to the ground
and fold out a ring,
yeah.
I decided, because her favorite era is Fearless, and like her favorite like song is Fearless. She's just like, she never left that era and she's staying there forever. And so during Fearless, I like literally had a ring box, and I had gotten us like matching rings.
That's
and
so cute.
It was like, will you be? I wrote her like a little poem and said like, would you be my maid of honor? And the video is so cute. I have it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we have to add that in.
Oh yeah,
we have to add it
we
in.
can put the video.
Okay,
in. It's
perfect.
So cute.
Okay, that's adorable.
Yeah,
I love it. I've seen the video.
You have?
It's so cute.
It is really cute.
We're gonna share it with you guys. So okay, so we have Fearless as our new song.
And this is good. We haven't even thought about this at all.
I know. So this is totally off the cuff.
It is, but it's funny.
We're gonna mix it up a little bit.
But honestly, we're thinking gold.
I just saw gold, bright, sunshine, sparkly, just, I don't know, maybe almost like a warm summer day.
Yeah.
Let's see. In a storm in my best. Okay, so maybe like there's an element of maybe like, you know, chandeliers, how it's got...
because when it rains during the Eras Tour, like the gold.
The gold. I think obviously during their first dance, they have to have that as like the backdrop.
And or like the sparklers too, like the heatless or whatever they're called,
Cold sparklers.
Cold sparklers.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's so Fearless coded.
So many of them though, because this production is going to be massive.
This is ballroom.
This is ballroom. She has her best dress on. She's dressed to the nines.
But I feel like she's going to change, and her second dress is going to be like this gorgeous gold dress.
A little shimmery. We would definitely do the lighting technique that we just discussed, where we have the bright light on her, we turn down the exposure, and then glitter her all up. Because that's what she deserves. It's her day.
She does.
So, okay. I like where we're going with this. So it's kind of like it has, so I'm taking almost elements of your wedding in my head because it still was pretty bright daylight when you had your ceremony.
Yeah.
And I feel like this ceremony would have to almost have that element to it because it's golden, you know?
I think it's like still a little bit, it was like in her era of, she was still in her like country phase. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think like the outside just kind of brings that in.
Yes.
I feel like it would be somewhere in like the middle, like south of like America. I feel like that would, I don't know, like
we're going back to Nashville.
Gorgeous field.
I was picturing a field
I
too.
said ballroom and now I'm saying field.
Well, I think the ceremony takes place in a field, but the reception takes place in a ballroom.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a multi-day event. Maybe she has like a ceremony day and maybe she has a reception day.
Ooh. Of course, I'm trying to. I want to look up the lyrics.
Yeah,
but I don't want people to know I'm looking up the lyrics. Like I literally can't think of them right now.
I mean, I'm just taking from the chorus right now.
But I can't think of the song. I literally, I was like, in my best just feels the only thing I'm thinking of.
But it doesn't get better than this. What doesn't get better than this for her?
Her wedding day.
There you go.
It's the best day. We'll get to that later. That'd be so cute. Okay.
Cute. No, I think we got it. I think we've got it nailed. I think it's like more of like a chill field. I think it's like.
I think this is
lots of. It's the tulip one. You think?
Where you think? I kind of.
Okay, so I have. Okay, I'm excited about this.
What do you think?
Okay, so I agree. Earlier in the car when we were talking about one of the other songs, I was like, all I can picture is the Field of Tulips from Wicked that they did. And it's just so beautiful. And I picture something like that for Taylor Swift's wedding. Like, I feel like she just would have a massive floral display of some sort with like all different bright colors. And
I feel like when you hear the first note of Fearless, you instantly smile.
yeah, it's a smiley, happy, upbeat. You can do anything.
Golds, like I just, like,
Yeah.
you know, even like like the trumpet flowers.
Yeah.
Like I feel like something like that. I'm pretty sure I just like follow like ambrosia, and apparently they're like poisonous. But maybe one that's similar and isn't poisonous.
Kids can't come to that wedding then.
No.
Or dogs.
Like marigolds.
That must be so pretty.
So pretty. I still imagine like this ballroom, because Fearless has this like very like grand gold like feel to it.
Yeah.
And she's in her best dress, and I'm sorry, but
And she's smiling from ear to ear because she knows that whoever she married, like, end game, end all be all. And it's the most beautiful day, and we're all happy for her. And the content looks great.
the content's great. So, like, how would we go about shooting this one? Because we kind of talked about the last one being more documentary, and I feel like this one's a little bit...
I'd like to do, like, a bunch of wide shots because I feel like there's going to be a lot of ground to cover. So I might even do some horizontal moments for this and mix that in. It's not particularly my style, but I think if we have a field like that that's full of all of these colorful, amazing flowers, like, you'd have to go horizontal for some of the shots.
I could totally picture editing those shots with the outdoors and like almost like overlay it and fade it into like just like close-ups of them.
Yeah, cute. So cute.
I feel like that is like so Fearless coded, and I can't really
so
explain
fearless.
why.
We have to make them do a cheesy at the end of it.
Taylor's gonna see this, maybe.
I hope so.
And she's gonna be like, I wouldn't do that at all.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, you know what? That's because everyone's wedding is different.
Exactly.
But I think it has to be gold.
I think it has to be gold. Their wedding bands, gold.
Oh, totally. What would her dress look like?
Definitely. I know Nicole and Felicia did Enchanted, but I feel like I could see a version of that dress with just like lots of gold.
Of like her Speak Now dress?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Just really big, lots of dress. But I think she does a change where like the skirt comes off.
I totally see that.
And it's like more of a sleek silhouette.
I was going to say, I kind of pictured like almost like a fitted like mermaidy dress.
Ooh, I like that too.
But like I feel like it has to be sparkly.
I feel like it has to be sparkly, whatever it is. And I know that there's an after party dress that's like
almost
amazing.
like a Netta Benchabu.
That could be really cute for this.
Like, you know, like,
but I need drama.
But like Netta has like that gorgeous lace like underlays.
Yeah.
Like no one does that like Netta Benchabu. Like I swear those lace underlays are so dainty and beautiful, and I feel like it is so it fits in. And then almost like, you know, like the sleeves.
The sleeves on her would look so good because she looks good in gloves. Yeah. So she needs like a cute little, okay. I'm not mad about it.
No.
I'm not mad about it.
I mean, we've seen it, and then I feel like her hair would be still in that, like...
I think she's got to do her curls.
Oh.
Because it's Fearless.
I love the natural hair on her.
I do, too. I think it looks so good. I mean, she looks good in any hair, but I love her natural hair, and I would love to bring that out.
Do you remember on one of the Eras tours when it was raining, or it was really hot, and she said that her hair returned to its factory settings?
That was my favorite.
That was one of my favorite things. That she's like, sorry, like it reset, or it's like it was like returned to factory settings. And I was like,
here we are.
That's the best way. But she's gonna be dancing so much. She's gonna.
I know.
It's gonna be like.
Well, I think we planned it. So
like, you know, call us up. Let us know.
We're here. We're available. We will. If we're not available, we will be for you. So we will move our schedule.
I'm free.
I'm free.
Just let me know when.
That's it. All right.
All right.
Does that conclude this episode?
That concludes this episode.
All right. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Bye.